Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast, bringing you this week's BMW Championship, the second leg of the PGA Tour playoff schedule. Congrats to Scotty Scheffler on a W at the St. Jude last week, second of the year. And as always, the show's brought to you by DraftKings. Use code FGD when signing up. Say it with me, people. FGD. Just kidding. All right, let's have a good show. As always, I'm brought to you by my co-host, Kenneth Kim, the king of the cash game, in the couch. What's cooking, Kenny?
Byron, what's up, man? Yeah, Scotty just ran away with it. It was coming, right? I think we both said that he was probably going to win last week, and he did so in emphatic fashion. I guess. The thing is, he was only up 2 going into the final day, and there was a little bit of hope for Burns and M-backers, which was me. I had both of them on my card this past week. So lucky enough to get full places on those 2 guys. But no one decided to step it up. I think there was 2 guys in the top 10 that really did anything. It was Norin and Siwoo. And I hope you guys follow me on X because I did bet Siwoo live, winner without Scotty, Saturday night, 24-1. Put $50 on it, so I won $1,200. It was out there. The funny thing is, it was actually a joke post. I basically said, Siwoo's going to shoot 61 and get into a playoff with Scotty and lose again. Basically, is what I said. And as a true degenerate, when you say something like that, out to the masses, it makes you think about it a little bit. And I thought about it. I'm like, this might happen, right? So at that point in time, if I didn't bet it and it happened, it would have been, I would have punched myself in the face 87 times. And I don't condone self-harm outside of, alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. So I had to do it. Now, it didn't happen the way I thought. I said it was going to happen because, of course, that was a joke. But Siwoo was the only one to really, play a little bit well on, I think we shot 2 under, maybe, right? He shot
2 under was gaining 2.5 strokes on the field, though, still.
Yeah.
So
the course played hard. The course was tough, and people were not playing well on Sunday. There was a lot of bad golf, starting from Sam Burns, starting from Sung Jae Im, right? Luckily, they held on to the place. So with that win, and Scotty's and the two each ways, I think I said last week I needed a win and 1 other each way to have a winning season guaranteed, as long as they don't go crazy with my bankroll. It happens. So I'm up. So now everything I win for the next 2 weeks is just profit. Unless I decide to spend double, $1,200 in bets instead of $800 in bets for the next 2 weeks. So
no self-harm in the next 2 weeks, Kenny. Yeah. No self-harm, okay?
I'm not. I'm already a little bit over this week, I have to admit. So it happens when you win. I'm 0.2 units over my normal 8-unit bankroll for the week. So it's not crazy. But yeah, well, what we saw, nobody wanted to win. No one wanted to go out there and do their thing. We saw some movement from Rose, which was nice to see, starting, in that morning wave, gaining some ungodly amount of strokes with his irons. Another guy to look out for this week, guy in $6,000 range who's, was 250-1 yesterday on DraftKings, Straka. Gained almost 4 strokes with his irons just on Sunday. A couple of guys that I noticed watching the coverage. Another thing I noticed watching the coverage, Morikawa does not look right. He's not walking normally. To me, it looks like he's still having nagging issues. Does that mean he can't go out there and do well and win? No, because he's done it, right? He's done it with these issues. He's had top 10s, top 5s with this back issue but I watched him a lot, and he did not look normal, especially walking. Usually he has that back straight, nice stride, a little bit hunched over. Something to keep in mind when you're looking at your lineups, trying to make your lineups or making your bets this week. Of course, Noren out there doing his thing with a really nice couple of weeks in a row on courses that might line up similarly to what we're seeing this week at Bellerive. And then, of course, Sung Jae didn't do great, but he held on at the end to get the place. Decky was up there, of course. He was one of my cash game cornerstones. Burns, one of my cash game cornerstones, was up there. Cash lineup won again, 19 out of 31. So I'm 19 and 12 for the year. Jumped over the 60% win percentage mark for my cash lineup. Gave that one out last week. This will be the last cash lineup of the season. We'll not be doing one for the Tour Championship because it's only 30 people. So trying to get 20 out of 32, get myself like 63% win percentage. I would be happy with that. Let's see how this week goes.
Let's get it, Kenny. Love that for you so much. Nice to know that it's always nice to be in a situation when the season isn't over, but the regular season is done, essentially. We at Fantasy Golf Degenerates will be powering through the fall swing. And the back end of the show gets really fun when the fall swing rolls through. So for those of you that really enjoy the show for what you are mostly here for, it gets really fun in the fall.
It does, because I will eat 200 milligram edibles before the show because not many people are watching. and it makes the show a lot more fun for me.
Only the true fans tune in.
Yeah. During the regular season, I try and stay as sober as possible. I might hit the vape or something
for half
during the show.
Yeah. And
for the majority of the show,
we'll take care of business there. We are running the show a little late tonight as well. So those of you waiting up, usually by now it's out for you, but life comes at you fast. There's lots of stuff going on in the three of our lives, and we have to sometimes delay it at times. So we appreciate your patience. And I have some bragging to do because over the weekend, I put in a placeholder lineup with 6 guys for round 2 showdown, and we had some friends show up at like 10:30 at night from Minnesota to stay the weekend with us, and I just forgot to put the model generated plays that I wanted, which would have been 3 additional guys. I would have switched out 3 guys. I would have kept the 3 in there. It landed up cashing $300 for me in round 2 showdown. So I was like, oh, okay, $33 entry, 105 guys. It's a small little $33 single entry contest. Awesome payout structure. 500 to first, 400 to second, 300 to third, 250, 200, 150 to sixth. So like it pays out almost like a cash game, somewhere between a cash game and a GPP type situation, which for me, I love. Nothing worse than finishing third and you just see the first place guy just like 10x you still. In pay, so having that come through was awesome. So then on Saturday night, I'm like, well, the gut guys came through for round 2. Let me do it for round 4. Well, don't worry, gentlemen. The gut guys came through. Mike, I've got it pulled up on my screen over here for you in the Model Maniac Patreon. Shout out Brian England, by the way, who won last week guessing Scotty Scheffler. So let us know below who's going to win this week so we can give you guys a free month to the Model Maniac Patreon, like Brian will get for getting Scotty Scheffler in the comments there. First person to comment the correct name that wins gets a free month into the Discord. You can see the gut guys we'll have for this week's showdown. So popped out the gut guys for round 4. Nico Echeverria, Harry Hall, Russell Henley, Alex Noren, Scotty Scheffler, JJ Spahn. Finished 4th in this one, $250 in the 33. Slightly worse payout structure on Sundays, but came through pretty clutch. So sometimes you just need to have a maniac override. You just need to have a bit of a gut situation. So I've submitted my lineup for the gut guys this week. We'll be sharing that later in the DFS side of things. Maybe the maniac needs to come out a little more. Been relying a little too much on the model. I am the maniac at the end of the day. Got to lean into that. So the gut guys have been fantastic over the last little while. We're going to have a good time in that department. Thank you, Michael. So
I'll say
one week for me, 10 units.
All 4 of my bets are the first 4 guys I thought of Sunday after the tournament I waited until this morning to put the bets in, and it worked out where I could fit them all in my budget minus 0.2 units.
Cool. No, it's getting better because you were 0.3 units over at the beginning of the show. Now it's 0.2 units. By the end of the show, you're going to be breaking even. Life's going to be good for us. This inflation is just insane. So listen.
Wait, let me think about it. It's actually 0.4. I'm $20 over it. I'm 420. Hey, 420 is how much I bet today. 420 is my bet. It could be. Hold on. Let me hit the vape real quick. Hold on.
This is the problem when we record late, is we've got zero responsibilities. I'm watching Mrs. Maniac put down Mini Maniac right now. By the time the show's over, we're going to be partying. So let's have a goodie.
So $20 is actually 0.4 units because $50 is a unit for me. So I was wrong. I'm 0.4 units high. Sorry, guys.
All good, brother. This is the thing. It's your money. You do what you want. If you're going over budget a little bit, it's all contextually based. It's a weird week. 50 guys, really only the top 30-ish can really rock and roll this week. But I do have a long shot or two that maybe could take care of business for us. We'll see. We'll get right into that in a little bit.
There's a guy I love at 6,100, and there's another guy I'm playing at 6,000. So they're there. They're there this week.
Yeah.
They're there.
We've got some with they're theirs over there. Anything else you want to chat about?
We got to talk about your ass, brother. Winning in the King of the Draft, representing the Fantasy Golf Degenerates out there. Byron makes it to the Final Four. If you guys are unfamiliar with the King of the Draft, we had Spencer Aguiar on a few weeks ago. He went, and he went over everything. It's a industry who's who. It was 38 guys to start this event. I think there was a play-in to get to 32, right? And then 32, it was went down to 16. It was a snake draft using the DFS salaries on Spencer's show. I lost in the first week. It was actually funny because I think I crashed that week in GPPs. And I used like basically my cash lineup, and that was a week where my cash lineup was garbage. But I ended up having a great week, but did not advance. But Byron's gotten through 3 stages now. He gets to the semifinals, and guess who he's going up against? Toe tagging Tambo. Tyler Tamboline. It's the battle of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates, old versus new. You can't beat that. The hilarious thing is, in the other semifinals is 2 roto guys.
Pull up the screen.
The other guys are 2 roto grinders guys. Derek Farnsworth, RG Notorious, and the other guy, I forget his name.
Kyle
Murray. Both a part of the Roto Grinders, and the Fantasy Golf Degenerates show was a part of the Roto Grinders network for 2 years prior to Byron coming on the show. So we got a little stake in everything. It's not hard having a stake in everything when you've been around for 11 years. I mean, the amount of people that we've worked with in 11 years, it's dozens upon dozens of people that we've worked with and worked for. But still, it's pretty cool. So it's Roto Grinders in one semifinal, Fantasy Golf Degenerates in the other, and one of the FGD crew is going to be in the final. Byron, I'm rooting for you. I'll say you're probably an underdog.
Did you see Tambo's lineup?
No. Tambo's lineup in the quarterfinals took 3rd in a GPP. This is a snake draft, right? It's only like 2 people drafting, and it's a snake draft, right? And the lineup he drafted came in 3rd and won 10 grand. Yeah, some shit like that. And honestly, I mean, you were going to be the underdog anyway, Byron. I was sort of shocked. Spencer has you all square, minus 110 apiece going into it. So you got a little respect from AI because he uses AI to get his numbers for odds for this final. Here's the thing, Byron. Let me say this to you now. Don't worry about shit. You are not expected to beat Tyler Tamboline. So Tyler is the one with the pressure this week. Tambo's got the pressure on him because, he is the DFS god, right? You're playing a DFS legend in the semifinal. Hey, and Notorious is a DFS legend also on the other side. So, I mean, look, it's free rolling now, Byron. Go in there, have fun, draft who the fuck you want, and let's take this shit down, brother.
I'm just happy to be here, Kenny. I'm just happy to be here. And
here's the thing. Now that you're here, let's fucking win. Let's fucking win.
Go. I'm going to be giving it my best bet, but there will be game theory in a way more game theory way involved. Like
how?
I'm going
to 2-man draft.
And by game theory, I mean I'm going to pull you down to my level as best I can. Whatever needs to happen, I'm going try to reschedule the show for later because Tambo's on Atlantic time. I'm Central, so I'm 2 hours behind him, not just 1 from Eastern. So try to get the show to start at 11
so you're doing mind games.
I'm trying. You got to try your stuff. You got to shoot your shit.
I fuck with it.
So you got to shoot your shot and see what you can do. I know I'm up against, a goat, the goat. And, like I said, I'm going up against someone whose shoes I'm swimming in right now, just sitting in the seat, so I'm used to the situation, but me and Tambo were roomies, in Montreal. So we're good to go in that department.
It was actually funny when we did this show with Roto Grinders. It's the first time we ever had to fill out time cards. We had to fill out time cards every week to get paid by the Better Collective, which was the private equity group that bought RG, right? And so to actually get paid, we had to go into their system and fill out timesheets every single week. I just remember doing it, and I just thought it was hilarious because we're just sitting here fucking getting stoned and talking bullshit about golf. Now, granted, it was Tambo was the other host back then, so I was afforded. I'm not talking down on this, but he was so good, and I took that for so much granted that during that portion of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates, I really didn't give a fuck about what I was saying or who I was picking, and that was almost like the worst time for me on the show.
Yeah,
because I had a crutch right there, right? And I'm not saying you're not a crutch. Yeah. You're amazing at what you do, but Tambo's just another. I'll reply
to you.
Yeah, Tambo's just another level, right? And so, during that time, I barely even fucking watched golf. I think I don't even know what happened during that time. But it was hilarious.
Tambo though he's strictly DFS. He doesn't do much betting, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I got into golf on the matchup side of things.
Shifted heavily.
The placements,
shifted heavily.
Yeah. So you got to know your strengths. I know. I just because I can speak and sound fun and funny and whatever, and I've got stuff to share with you guys, I'm on camera all the time. And then you land up speaking about lots of DFS just because that's just what happens, right? Ultimately, I would just hammer placements nonstop and just not care about everything else. But it also makes you a better person trying to improve in areas that you're not. The placement side of things has definitely seen some leaps and bounds while trying to be better at being like Tambo, which I think is an aspiration for pretty much 99% of the population. So,
see, I would be the opposite. I think if I had the choice and I didn't do the show, I would go all DFS because honestly, the way that I bet, I would have to change everything, and it's just too much risk, right? If I, and if I didn't play the each ways and stuff like that, I mean, that's really what's been saving me for the last 3 years. That's why I'm up the last 3 years, even though I think last year I was down a little bit. The year before I was up, but I'm up in the last 3 years betting, and that's all because I started each way betting February 2024. And
when did I start? It was round about then too, wasn't it?
Right about there, yeah.
Yeah.
Right around there.
I only did 3 or 4 months with Tambo. So yeah.
So I started each way betting because it was Bet365 just got in Virginia, and I decided to try it out. And that's what has helped me stay afloat. Now in DFS, I feel pretty confident in my approach, where I would put 45% of my bankroll in cash in one lineup, and then go the rest in GPP. So what I would do is I would just take all the gambling money and put it into DFS and played a 250 single entry, played a 200 single entry, played 100 single entry, played 2 of the 55s. You know what I'm saying? And do that, and then spend the other $400 on cash, like I'm doing now. That's what I would do if I didn't do the show.
Yeah. But we are doing the show, so we bring you everything, friends. We bring you everything, whether we're good at it or not. But we're mostly okay at what we do, so we'll see what happens. Lots of fun stuff. Who's not okay? What they do is Live. Shout out Live Golf, Indianapolis. In the end.
It could be the final event ever.
It ends in Indy. Like basically.
I think there's going to be some resemblance of it next year, but it's not going to be what we've seen, and who knows who's going to be in it. Now, the whole thing about it is John and is RAHM and Bryson really going to lead the whole thing? If they do, then maybe they can get some more money. Maybe they can keep some of these bigger guys. I think there's some guys that just don't want to go back and they like the money and the lifestyle. Maybe DJ would stay. I don't know. I don't know how it'll go. And honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal, and I don't think it's that big of a story anymore, really. The big story is Bryson and RAHM. Those are the important aspects of Live, I think. And I think that's it, really. I mean, there's other guys out there.
Neiman has to be he's in tier B for sure, at the top of the tier B there, because
and Neiman, Hatton, tier B,
But like for Neiman coming from that tour, he's the premier ace of the Live Tour results wise. So it would be really fun to have him back on the PGA Tour and see what those 9 Live wins translates to back on the big boy tour, where he grew up and did his thing. Won the Riviera Genesis Invitational, but he had some big tournaments to his name for sure. And then I've talking mad slander about him because of all the shit he said on Live and everything that's happening in the majors and stuff. So I'm excited for him to maybe make it back to the PGA Tour. I think that'll be fun to just get everyone back in rock and roll. But that is also for another time. I just thought I'd mention this is potentially the last time you could maybe ever watch Live Golf. Maybe. Lots of potentially maybes in there, but just thought I'd mention because they are playing Indianapolis. This is the last time that's going to happen. So if you want to watch a really bad golf product, this is your chance potentially forever. So anything else? We had some Corn Ferry Tour. Ross Steelman, congrats.
We had the USAM. A Brit won the USAM. I think it was a third Brit. I think Fitzpatrick was the last one that won it. Another story, Rory. 20 loses by 25 strokes to Scotty Scheffler. 25 strokes. It seems to me when it comes to Rory that he just doesn't care except for a certain amount of events. And here's the thing, same shit the Tiger did. Same things the Tiger did. And I'm not saying Rory is Tiger's level at all, but Rory has been the Tiger of our era, of the last decade, right? He's been the best. He's been the champion. He's been the guy, in the forefront, the face of golf. He's won his 6 majors. He's won 40, 50 events. He's
back-to-back Masters champion, bro.
Yeah,
the last 2 green jackets are his.
He's 37 years old. He was able to get his family. They seem like they're doing good now. I'm sure he wants to keep it that way. Look, he deserves whatever he wants to do. I got no problem with him packing it in. I mean, for betting purposes, it makes it a hell of a lot easier for us to be like, nope. DFS purposes, nope. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for us, it's helpful. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. If it's the majors, if it's the players, if it's Wells Fargo, if it's the Memorial, and if it's a national open, which I don't know how many more he's going to be playing outside the Open Championship, because I don't think the Canadian Open is going to be a tier 1 event. So when it comes to the PGA Tour, you got 8 events where you can maybe want to bet him. And so we know, what I'm saying? We know.
He's also just never played well at TPC Southwind. He's had 1 or 2 top 10s. That's about it. Last year he skipped this tournament entirely.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
I thought for sure he was going to skip it again this year. And of course there's a whole thing. Even if he plays, he will play the next 2 weeks. He'll only have 14 events played this year, which is one under the limit, which, technically would mean if he was a normal player that he could only get into sponsors exemptions. He could only get 7 sponsors exemptions next year. If he and that's the only way. It's something like that. I'm not completely sure about it, but I read something like that when it comes to missing.
Also a list where Rory's hanging out with Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and is Lee Trevino, whoever else is the slammers. He's one of the 6 names now. Like, that is a list that you can only be part of in very isolation. And
hilariously, Scotty jumped Rory in the money list this week, and if Scotty wins this week, Scotty jumps Tiger in the all-time money list.
Which is
of course, the Siggy events. What are you going to do? The Siggy events are pretty fucking incredible for these guys.
And also shout out Rory, who, when they were doing the preview for the week before he went and shot 25 shots worse than Scotty, they couldn't even show him as the best driver of the golf ball in the PGA Tour, although he is, statistically speaking, on like Data Golf and my sites and whatever. He doesn't have enough rounds in the PGA Tour website to qualify for these stats. No. It's like, that's, to me, in my own opinion, a monster flex. It's like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, we are rocking and rolling. And
he knows it. He knows it. What the fuck is Roll App going to do? Oh, Rory, you can't play no more. Yeah, right. Yeah, fucking exactly. Right. Right. Rory has all the leverage. I mean, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he's earned it. He's earned it.
He's without a doubt. Anyone that's mad with Rory McIlroy right now, you go seek a counselor, because there's deeper rooted things that you are dealing with. This shouldn't be triggering you that hard. The guy's one of the 6 best golfers ever to walk the planet. So, got to give it to the man. 2 green jackets in a row. I mean, do whatever you want, brother. Do whatever you want. Yeah. All right. Speaking of doing whatever you want, Kenny, let's hear what you got to say about this week's golf course. Do you have a Bellerive course preview?
I do, because you know what? I wrote this course preview in 2018.
Let's go, brother. Let's go. Shout out Tambo.
For the PGA Championship. I think it was still Brad.
It was Brad?
In 2018, so it was still Brad. And the crazy thing is, like, nothing's changed about the course except it added about 180 yards in length. Yeah. But the superintendent's like, it's the exact same. We got an extra tee box or 2 to make it longer, but everything's the same. So let's go ahead and rehash this. 2000. It's been so great, because I'll be honest. When I first started this, the course preview was the reason why I got my name, right? In 2015, that's how I started this whole thing. Actually, I started by working for a pick seller, where a DFS pick seller, DFS Cash Lineups. I think that was his name. I think he's still around. At DFS Cash Lineups. He hit me up, and he was like, "Why don't you write for me?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." And it worked. And then I signed up for Rick Gaiman. I worked for Rick Gaiman, his first website, DFS On Demand. I think I got paid $10 an article.
Provider formerly known as DFS Cash Lineups. I used to sell lines. Now I just keep them to myself. Lol.
There we go.
That's in his profile right now.
That was the guy. That I started with. And of course, I started doing these course previews for Rick. And that's what really built my following, because DFS was in its infancy back then, and no one really knew how to go about it. And when I started bringing the course preview around and talking about the course and trying to specify golfers who I think would target that course fit, like, that shit wasn't really a thing. Yeah. I mean, DFS has only been around for like less than a year at that point in time. And so that's what got me into it. So I was like big into course previews. I was like, oh, give me new courses. I want to write about this. That lasted about 5 or 6 years. And then once COVID hit and stuff like that, and the Tambo was around, and I just was like just freewheeling on the show. I was like, fuck it. And now I hate new courses. I'm like, God damn it, I gotta do fucking research, fucking figure this shit out. I can't just like read last year's shit. Fucking sucks, right? Which this year, all the courses, the new courses that we'd played before. So they were all in the last decade. Got them all on my phone. So we are good. We are good. So let's get to this week. Let's get to the course preview. The year's this one even says the year's final major is upon us. Let me get to the next. The top 50 in the FedEx Cup standings head to Bellerive Country Club in St. Louis, Missouri for the BMW Championship. There have been 3 previous major championships played at Bellerive. Again, I had to add this part, and I hated adding this part. I was like, God damn it, why am I writing this new shit? Anyways, there have been 3 previous major championships played at Bellerive. The 1965 U.S. Open won by Gary Player. The 1992 PGA Championship won by Nick Price, who was number 1 ranked player in the world at the time. And the 2018 PGA won by Brooks Koepka. All 3 of these events were won by premier golfers of their time. And I don't really expect that to change this week because Scotty's going to win. Now, weather will play a factor this week as high heat, humidity, and rain will probably keep the conditions soft, similarly to what we saw in 2018. Won't be as hot, but it's still going to be humid. There is rain in the forecast Tuesday and Wednesday, though it looks like it clears up for the rest of the week. And depending on how humid it is and, how much of that water can get soaked up by the sun, maybe Sunday could be fun because we haven't seen this course play like firm. I don't know, maybe ever. Right. Because of the time that they usually play these events. Now, if you look back at 2018, it was similar. It was a little bit more hotter, but a lot of rain. And it was softer conditions. And what we saw was, I think, a dozen golfers shoot, I think maybe 9 or 10 golfers shoot double-digit under par with the winning score being minus 16. Granted, this was 8 years ago. The technology that we have now in the 8 years it's been incredible, right? Yeah. And so I think we're going to see a pretty good scoring high, like a high scoring event. I think mid to high teens wins again. But what I do expect from this course is that if you're off, you're going to struggle. We are going to see golfers, finish over par for the event, right? We're going to see we're going to see some of that. But we're also going to see the winning scores be 16, 17, 15, something like that. These are why the last 2 courses are similar in that respect, where your game has to be solid. And if your game is solid, you can score well. I mean, look at Scotty, 17 under, right? Even though he won by 8. But if you're off even just a little bit, I mean, this course can really come to bite you in the ass. Very, very possible. So we'll see. I mean, if you remember, this was the second easiest scoring PGA Championship of the last decade, behind Valhalla. Mm-hmm. So with the softer conditions, we don't know much about what's going on. I know it's a major test, but I still expect that winning score to be minus 15 or better. Now, a couple of numbers from the 2018 event. This is actually from Derek Farnsworth at RG Notorious, who you'll probably play in the finals of the King of the Draft.
I like that.
This is from his Twitter account. 2018 tournament averages. Driving accuracy, 65%. Tour average, 60%. Driver usage, 65%. Tour average, 60%. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Driver usage, 65%. Tour average, 70%. Driving distance, 286 yards. Tour average, 293. Greens and regulation, 66%. Tour average, 66%. Scrambling success rate, 56%. Tour average, 59%. There was about a 20% difference in green and regulation from on the fairway to off the fairway. So that's something to keep in mind.
I do want to just interject right away with that, though.
Go ahead.
That was a major. What do they do in majors? They beef the course up. They made this course played as difficult as this course could have allowed in that time of the year. So do I think we're going to see major thick rough this week? I don't know.
The rough was only 3.5 inches that week, but
it was hefty. It was rugged.
Yeah, it was not wispy rough.
Yeah,
well, you could say that. I mean, like you would have to have some major swing speed to be able to get it through, and it was pretty easy to get your club twisted a little bit because of how thick that rough was. Even though it wasn't necessarily, I mean, I think the Rocket it had higher rough than what we're going to see this week, but the thickness of it is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to the meat of the course. Bellerive Country Club, 7,450-ish yard. Again, I had to change that, and I was pissed. Yard, par 70 with 2 par 5s and 4 par 3s. The 2 par 5s are lengthy. The par 5 8th plays around 615 yards. The par 5 17th plays close to 600. Both of these holes are long. Both could be reachable by players if they hit the fairway. If it's super soft and they're not getting any roll, it's going to be hard to get to these fairways in 2. Now, Zoysia grass typically does have a lot of tumble to it, but if it rains heavily Tuesday and Wednesday, we might not see those rolling fairways until the weekend, right? So the par 3s, they vary wildly in distance. The 3rd hole plays 148 yards. The 6th hole plays on 213 yards, and these are abouts. The 13th hole plays around 180 yards. The 16th hole plays around 240 yards, right? The par 3 6 hole was like one of the hardest holes. Every time the majors played here, it's a par 3, plays almost a stroke over par. So very, very difficult hole. When it comes to the par 4s, there are 2 holes under 400 yards, including the par 4 11th, though none are, I mean, you have to have some real balls to try and drive it just because these are heavily dog-legged with water and stuff like that. So I don't see people driving the green on these 2 shorter holes. Now, there's 4 that range from 400 to 450, and there's another 4 that go from 450 to 500. There are also 2 par 4s over 500 yards, both of which have immense trouble in front of the greens, which could lead to layups, if they miss the greens. That's how long these par 4s. And looking at those distances, I see a fair amount of shots from 150 to 200. I see maybe like 4 to 5 from 200 plus, 6 to 7 from 150 to 200. Maybe a cut, and then the rest are under 150 is what I see. So I mean, I think targeting that nice 150 to 200 range, 200 plus, that's something to look at this week. Now, off the tee, golfers are going to see average width fairways with massive bunkers in the landing zones, but they do definitely pinch at the 300-yard marker. So again, driving accuracy for longer hitters, probably a little bit more of a big deal. Now, there is about 5 feet of intermediate rough surrounding the fairways, which shouldn't be an issue for most golfers. But if golfers miss wildly, they're going to have to deal with that rough that we were speaking of. If the forecast is correct, holding the greens from approach shots in the rough will get more difficult as the week progresses. I do think the first couple of days, the guys who are bombing it can spray it a little bit, have a little bit of short irons in, and try and hit these greens. Now, we'll get to these greens here in a second because they're a little bit wild. Now, on approach shots, golfers are going to see these. They're huge greens, like 7,800 yard or 7,800 square feet average size. right? But the size, and a lot of them are elevated with prevalent like roll-off areas. The size of the greens is somewhat misleading on some holes, as there's a fair amount of greens that are like super wide but skinny, right? So
in depth.
Yeah, in depth. And so these greens are difficult. I mean, these greens are so big that if you're offline and there's going to be like 80, 90, 100-foot putts. You're going to see those throughout the week. Lag putting going to be important this week because you spray it, you miss it a little bit, it takes the wrong spin. Next thing you know, you're 60 feet away, and these greens are not flat. They are heavily sloped, heavily undulated. These are going to be an issue for some golfers this week. Now, large, deep bunkers surround most of the greens, and because of the size of the greens, hitting it into these bunkers can lead to like extremely long bunker shots, like greenside bunker shots. Like, you don't usually see like 40-yard, greenside bunker shots, but if you miss enough, you can have those this week. Like I said, the 100-foot putts, the slope is crazy. The greens are bent. And they're going to be playing around 11 and a half, probably not more than that, probably maybe even less than that, because of how slopey and undulated these greens are. Also, water on about 8 holes this week. Byron, what boxes do golfers need to check this week, brother?
Let's go, Kenny. Way to dust off that course preview and hit us with the good stuff there. As always, strokes gained putting on bent grass is what you're seeing in front of you. I was expecting you to chat a little more about the green complexes, but you did a lot of preambling before you mentioned they were bent. So yeah, we are with the bent grass greens on your screens. On the right-hand side, you'll see the difference between this bent grass green surface and all the other surfaces that these golfers play on. The 4 main ones being Bermuda, bent grass, POA, and fescue. Obviously, fescue only happening 2 times a year, basically, over on the Scottish and the Open. So some data sample size issues there. But your best guys on bent grass greens this week are Sam Burns, Alex Noren, Wyndham Clark, Scheffler, Fleetwood, McIntyre, Matt McCarty, Rory McIlroy, Justin Rose, and Christopher Wrighton are your 10 best putters on bent grass greens. If you want to do the bent gents, which is who's the best putter relative to the rest of their putting surfaces that they have, so whose putting ceiling is raised on bent grass greens versus other surfaces. Colin Morikawa leads the field, gaining 0.6 strokes more than all the other surfaces on average. He almost gains a stroke more, 0.8 strokes more than he does on Bermuda, which is the majority of the golf he plays. And most of the signature events and things are on Bermuda. Doesn't have a lot of opportunity to play bent grass greens, which as a scheduling guy, I would change that up a little bit for Colin. But again, not going to listen to me. Your next best 10 guys are going to be Colin, Christopher Wrighton, Ryan Fox, Michael Thorbjornsen, Wyndham Clark, Alex Smalley, Tommy Fleetwood, Bobby Mack, Justin Rose, and Michael Brennan, gaining 0.3 strokes or more on bent grass surfaces versus the others that they'll be playing on. That's not necessarily a box I want to be checking this week, but it would be a 7th box if I had 7. We're just rolling with 6 this week so far. That's how it's going to go. So we're going to look for some medium scoring, potentially easy scoring. So I'm just going to rock and roll with easy and medium scoring being a 50-50 split over here. And you can see the guys in blue are your top 10 for the week. So yeah, they are on the screen for medium and easy scoring conditions. Medium scoring is when a scoring average is half a stroke under par to 1.5 strokes under par. Easy scoring is when the scoring average for that day is 1.5 strokes under par or easier. So I put a nice little blend of those two together, 50-50. Yeah,
I think that's
mediums.
smart, Byron, because I think the first 2 days might play easy. I think the weekend might play medium. I think that's pretty smart.
It's, the thing is, I leaned all in on medium last week because history projected 2 of the last 16 weren't medium. So basically 14 of the last 16 were all medium. at St. Jude. Guess what? All 4 rounds were hard or hell. So sometimes you just got to like take the bigger buckets and put them together. So that's what we're doing this week. It's a new course. We're not entirely sure how it's going to go. Conditions look super tranquil. Lots of rain early, like you mentioned, all that stuff. So the best score is in medium conditions. 2.5 strokes gained to Scotty Scheffler in first place. Then Siwoo Kim, 1.6 strokes gained. So 1.3 strokes behind Scotty Scheffler. Pretty much insane numbers. So then Siwoo, Patrick Cantley, Tommy Fleetwood, Spawn, Matt Fitzpatrick, Jake Knapp, Bobby Mack, Nikolai Højgaard, and Rory McIlroy, all gaining 1.2 strokes gained or more on average on these easy and medium scoring condition venues per round. So that's not per tournament, it's per round. Then we're going to scoot over to the right-hand side a little more, take a look at the micro model, take a look at who is top 10 for what I've generated while Kenny was speaking. As always, I showed you the micro model. Uses hole-by-hole scoring for different fairway regulations, green regulations, that kind of stuff. Obviously, this week I don't have that data, so I went in and tried to figure out, okay, based on the approach range that golfers will be coming from, I changed some green regulation rates and things like that. But for the most part, I think we got this course pretty figured out here. The best course fits for this venue, per the micro model, are going to be Scheffler, Burns, Fleetwood, Clark, Morikawa, McIlroy, Noren, Siwoo Kim, Fitzpatrick Matthew, and Russell Henley in the 10 hole over there for the micro model rankings. And then who's been golfing the best over the last 2 months? We're looking for some good course fit guys. I know Kenny missed his screenshot there potentially, but we'll get that one back to him. Over the last 2 months, the best golfers in the field, strokes gained wise: Scheffler, Burns, Fitzpatrick, Fleetwood, Tom Kim, Wyndham Clark, Hideki Matsuyama, Colin Morikawa, Hovland, and Michael Thorbjornsen, who won a tournament not so long ago. So those are your guys playing the best golf over the last 2 months. You're looking for some guys that are in form, doing their thing, shaking that ass. Siwoo Kim, definitely not part of the package. Is he in there? Not in there. I'm lying to you. So fun. Moving along. In the win and top percentages situation over here, we're looking for guys with upside this week. And our best options with top 20, top 10, top 5, and win percentages all being combined are Scheffler, Fleetwood, Siwoo Kim, Matt Fitzpatrick, Cameron Young, McIlroy, Schauffele, Oberg, Morikawa, and Burns, all ranking as high upside potential guys based on the last 12 months of golf that they've played across the varying tours, across the varying golf courses. So lots to be desired, but these are just guys that finish at the top of the leaderboard a lot more often than others. Then we're going to take a look at the model ranking for this week. These are the guys that, you see these percentages at the top of the screen. These are what the percentages produce in a power rating perspective, and then you just get a ranking for them. So your 10 best power ratings / model rankings for the Model Maniac Patreon. Shout out Brian England, who's in that now again. Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, Tommy Fleetwood, Morikawa, Clark, McIlroy, Siwoo Kim, Matt Fitzpatrick, Alex Noren, and Patrick Cantley. Lots of Patricks, I wanted to say Alex's, but there's no Alex Fitzpatrick. It's just Matt Fitzpatrick. So we got that going on there. But these are your guys that are top model options. And then if you take a look at this PGA Championship, if you just look at these names, it's Brooks, it's Tiger, it's Adam Scott, it's John Rahm, it's Stuart Sink, it's Gary Woodland, it's Justin Thomas, Thomas Peters, Thomas.
I think everybody in the top 10 except Peters, or in the top 9 except Peters, has won a major. Yeah, every single one. Every single one.
That's what an incredible. There we go. So there's your major champs. At some point or another, they managed to get it home. And everyone's going to look at Francesco Molinari as the only outlier of the distance side of things.
That's
this week at 38. In 2018, he was actually gaining like 5 or 6 strokes on the field distance-wise. That was like peak Molinari season when he
really
lost. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Oh, I saw Kisner and Reeve and Spieth tied for 12th. So I thought, maybe it's not all hope is lost with Molinari in the top 10. But I didn't know Molinari was dinging it out there.
This year in particular, he gained 5.6 strokes on the field distance-wise in 2018. It was like the year of them, and look at what he did. He just went to gym. He just did it. Like everything about this 2018 season for Molinari was banana land. Like he's typically profiled as an inaccurate driver of the ball. This year in 2018, he was bombing it and not gouging it. He was in the fairway and hitting it a long way relative to the pack, so he's always been a loser distance every single year basically, except for 2018. It's incredible, so that was the one year he just ramped it up. And then 2019 he lost to Tiger.
It's sort of fishy though, don't you think?
Goofy,
sort of fishy.
But he
sort
just
fishy.
In 2019 when he lost the Masters to Tiger, he melted down. I think that's basically where we can see the distance. Probably he just stopped going to the gym. He just gave up. Tiger just ruined his chances that week. So that's what you get when you go up against the big dog or the big cat doing your thing. But I do think driving distance. Look, when you wake up in the morning and you're a long hitter, there's a good chance or a decent chance that you hit a lot of fairways. If your name's Rory McIlroy, your name's Wyndham Clark, your name's Patrick Candy, Scotty Scheffler, whoever hits it far, Ludwig, Cameron Young, these kind of guys. When you wake up as Russell Henley, there's a 0.5% chance that you wake up and start hitting golf balls 310 yards. You're likely going to just keep pounding fairways like you've done your whole life, but there's no chance that you're going to just hit it further. Whereas the long hitters can randomly hit it straighter and far. So that is the point that I'm trying to make with this particular point. We are looking for guys that dominate in the distance department, because this golf course, thick rough, what does thick rough benefit? It's the golfers that have good club head speed. It's the golfers that are hitting short clubs into greens. This is massive greens. You've got lots of area to aim at. These guys can dominate. So these are your longest hitters in the field. Don't take this for gospel, but I do think it wouldn't be shocking if you see some outlier long hitters show up at the top of the leaderboard if they sun run in other statistical areas this week. Rory McIlroy leads the field by a long way in driving distance. Nikolai Højgaard, Minwoo Lee, Michael Brennan, Chris Gotterup, Xander Schauffele, Gary Woodland, Ludwig Åberg, Cameron Young, and Jake Knapp are your top 10 distance options in this field. So they're going to be pounding it out there. Of those distance guys, Rory's the only one that ranks inside the top 15 in course fit. So it's not everything, but I do think it could help you find a bit of random upside if you put that in there. I've only got 10% of it going into the model.
The one argument against distance that I will say for this week is that this was 2018, right? I want to know what the driving average was in 2018 compared to what it is now in 2026. I bet you it's at least 8 yards, 9 yards difference. It would be my guess.
2018, the driving distance this week was 286 yards, which was 1 yard lower than the driving distance average on the tour, which was 287.
Okay. What's the driving distance? What's the average this year?
Aaron Rai, when he won the PGA Championship earlier this year, the average driving distance was 300 yards, 0.6. It was 7 yards shorter than driving distance averages on tour, which is now 307 yards.
So it's about 7 yards difference, right? Compared to what it was. I mean, that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's still
it's more. It's significant. It's more because it was 286. It's like 20 yards more in the space of the last.
So the 300-yard average was less than the driving average.
Yeah, just like the driving average is in 2026 right now. The driving average is. Oh, I lie.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I'm lying to you. It's 294. I'm lying.
That's what I thought. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
my
294,
bad.
294, and 286. So you're looking at 8 yards difference. Now the thing is, the irons even go farther now. So I mean, technically, you're looking at 10 to 15 yards, 10 to 15 yards more distance from your combined between your driver and your irons, than it was back then. Mm-hmm. And that 15 yards is a big deal, nowadays. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, yes, the longer hitters are going to – everything you said is correct. But I think because of technology and the difference it was from 2018 to 2026, that I think the shorter hitters have a better chance than they did back then. I'm guessing. We don't know. But that would be my argument for that.
I wouldn't say short hitters are eliminated from this week.
Especially if they hit fairways. If
you're pounding all the fairways this week, you're in the mood. Like you're going to have a lot of good birdie looks. If you're in the rough, you're basically fighting for par on that hole, or when you're in the fairway, you way down there, you got to capitalize on those birdies. It's a pretty simple.
Yeah, basically situation. You want length or you want accuracy. You just don't want the guys who don't have neither, right? You don't want the middle. You don't want the middle of the road guys.
Yeah, because I was Google Earthing all the stuff going over the bunkers. There's lots of bunkers at 305, 310. If you can fly those, the elite drivers of the ball can hit at 310 yards in the air. And most of these tee boxes are a little higher than you're not mostly. There's a couple 30 feet differences in height between the tee boxes and where the bunkers are, and blah blah blah. So I went through all of that stuff to try and figure out basically 305 yards is where I'm calling it a day for average there for this week. So a couple holes that reminded me a lot of Bay Hill, like the second hole, I think is like a water hole down the left-hand side. You're kind of going around the water. You got to hit an iron if you want to be safe, or you can pound driver long and right and just clear, stay safe of the water instead of bailing out into the water there. So I'm curious to see how it plays out this week, but I think, ultimately one of the winners is going to be a guy that sun ran with the distance plus the accuracy and then dialed it in on approach and on the greens, because there's going to be guys that you can eliminate that have really bad short game around the greens this week, because these greens are so big. The moment you just get a putter in their hand, boom, like you're not chipping anymore, you're putting. And there are some guys that have significantly better putting attributes than they do chipping. There's just some guys that, like Kisner, would always want to putt versus chip. So shocker, he played well here. Like less chipping, more putting. Kevin Kisner shows up, but not on Bermuda, but it was a bit. So anyway, let's get into the betting segment. But before we do that, let's hear a quick word from our betting partner. New DraftKings customers, get in the game right now. Sign up today and make your first deposit of just $5 and instantly get $25 in free Pick 6 bonus picks, plus a powerful single-use 100% winnings boost token. That means you can play for free with $25 in bonus picks. And if you win, boost those winnings up to 100%. That's up to $100 boost in cash. New customers only. Bonus picks and your boost token expire in just 14 days, so don't wait. This offer is live from June 20th through August 23rd. Download the DraftKings app, sign up, and start playing Pick 6 today. Must be 18 or older, 19 in Alabama, Nebraska, 21 in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. Valid only where Pick 6 is available. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. New customers only, minimum $5 deposit required. Full terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Play free, win bigger, only on DraftKings Pick 6. And we are back with this week's DK betting segment of the week. Kenny Kim, tell us who's going to win this goddamn golf tournament, baby.
All right, so I'm going to start off. These are all gut plays, and this is the gut play of the gut play. It's going to be Xander Schauffele, 25-1 with 3 places. Either him or Fitz. And I like Fitz. I actually have Fitz as one of my cash game cornerstones this week, and I don't have Xander. But I just have a feeling it's Xander's time. A couple of top tens in his last couple of events. The ball striking has returned. He's gained at least almost 18 strokes ball striking in his last 12 rounds played. One on Zoysia grass fairways at the Bay Current. I also like the fact that his putter has been hot the last 2 weeks on 2 completely different putting surfaces. Gained 2.7 strokes at the Rocket on Bent. Gained over 3 strokes last week on Bermuda. That to me seems like he's dialed in all cylinders for really the first time in a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the 3 places with him, 25-1, Xander Schauffele. Next, it's going to be Siwoo, rocking the Korean headband for him this week. Another, betting him 20-1 with 8 places. Another runner-up for Siwoo last week. Comes in 5th in my model. His iron game has been fire, and he has been solid with the driver, especially in the accuracy department. Really good from 150 to 200, where I think a lot of approaches will come from. Short game has been overall good. Runner-up at CJ this year, which has Zoysia fairways. What it will come down to is Sunday for him, and hopefully he's learned a bit on all these instances of him coming close. I really did like his interview on Sunday after the event, where he's trying to do everything he can to win the event. Like he wants to win. He knows that W is close. He smells it, and he wants it. And I like him this week. We're going to go with it. My next bet, I'm rocking him as well with the highlighter yellow. Hideki Matsuyama, 20-1 with 8 places. Comes in third in my model. Top 10 in both off the tee and approach in this field in the last 24 rounds. First in birdie or better percentage last 24 rounds in this field. Shockingly, third in driving accuracy in this field in the last 24 rounds. He has found something with his driver. The only reason he didn't finish better last week was his short game, but his chipping is normally elite, and Bermuda is by far his worst putting surface. We have bet this week where he actually has gained strokes on throughout his career. He won on Zoysia grass fairways at the Zozo. A little theme there going along. Final bet, Wyndham Clark, 28-1 with 8 places. Even after back-to-back missed cuts at the Open and the Rocket, Clark still has 7 top 13s in his last 9 events. Nice bounce back last week with a top 5. Iron game was very strong. Bent is his best putting surface. Won CJ this year with Zoysia fairways. Again, when he gets hot, he stays hot. I'm rolling with Wyndham Clark. So my card for this week is going to be Xander, 25-1 with 3 places. Siwoo, 20-1 with 8 places. Decky, 20-1 with 8 places. Wyndham Clark, 28-1 with 8 places. And before you go on, Byron, let's talk a little bit about the without Scotty market. I know we glanced over this prior to the show. I will not be doing it. I will hardly ever do it. The crazy thing is, the last 2 times I've done it, I've won. right. So Siwoo won last week, and I won, and I bet Tommy at the Tour Championship without Scotty, and he won outright. You didn't even have to worry about it. Now, the reason why I don't want to do it, and even though I think Scotty will win again, I'm going to use Scotty in one and done this week. I still have him in the Slider Cup, is because I can't bite the bullet on a dead heat. Like I was when I was watching it yesterday, Noren had just tied Siwoo with a hole left. Burns just tied Siwoo with a hole left. So at that point in time, I would have made I think less than what an each way would if I had 2 guys tie him, right? And I don't want to deal with that. Yes, I think Scotty's going to win, but it's possible he doesn't. He's only won twice this year, right? I mean, it's only won twice this year. I'm not going to do it. I don't think I'll. This year's, I'm glad I didn't do it because it would have wasted a lot of money. Now, if he goes out here and starts winning every fucking event again, we might have to think about it for next week, okay?
Listen.
We might have to think about it for next week. But he hasn't really fared great on Zoysia. I mean, CJ Cup, I think he never won there, right? He never won the Byron, did he?
He won it by the most he's ever won a tournament by.
Right, he did. Was that at the same course?
At Craig Ranch?
Was that at Craig Ranch?
I think so. Yeah, he beat Bez, and I know he beat Spieth and EVR by those guys gained 6 strokes on the field, and he beat them by 5 strokes.
Yeah,
it was
so maybe
the
Zoysia thing doesn't work for him because I know he hasn't been the best. He hasn't been the best at East Lake, and East Lake has Zoysia.
Dude, and he was one of the worst, not as good Bermuda putters versus Bent. If I showed you the stats for the St. Jude versus Bermuda versus Bent, it was oh boy, just wait for Scotty to get to the bent grass greens in St. Louis because he's not nearly as good on Bermuda as he is Bent. Guess what? Scotty just went and had his best ever career professional tournament putting on Bermuda.
Wasn't last week. St. Jude is Bermuda.
Bermuda.
Bermuda? It is
Yeah,
Bermuda. You're correct. Yep.
it was Wyndham, St. Jude. That's why you can continuously kind of clump those guys together, because there's a lot of similarities on that golf course trend. We immediately, the BMW prides itself on like the bent gents, like it goes to the Chicago area, the Midwest, and that's where the predominant bent grass greens live in the States. So the hilarious thing about this, 4 years ago, I knew nothing about Poa Annua, Poa Trivialis, bent grass greens, Bermuda, now we get into the golf betting stuff, and you have to learn about the different grasses, and the Midwest is the land of the bent. So a lot of South Africans typically play well on bent grass greens in the Midwest because we grew up on them. So fun fact over there. So Scotty Scheffler definitely better historically on bent prior to last week, where he had his best Bermuda/career putting performance ever. So now it's changed completely because it was a monster spike performance. So we fucked. If he's putting well, we fucked. So the without market, do what you got to do if you have to.
That's why I played each ways. I'll take
each ways.
Give me two each ways, and I'll be happy.
Exactly. So I'll dive into mine. I don't have too many this week because I'm rocking and rolling with two, and then I've got a third that Kenny, I was waiting for him to chat to me about, and it didn't quite work out the greatest because I don't think he's in on him at all. But I'm going to start off my card with Wyndham Clark at 35-1. A little bit of overlap over there. If you take a look at the bent gents, Wyndham Clark is one of them. He's the fifth biggest improver when it comes to putting on bent surfaces versus Bermuda versus the other surfaces he's on. He just had a T5 last week. He just showed up out of nowhere. T5, boom. He's playing some good golf. And I feel like this golf course really provides you with the opportunity to just rip driver where you want. He's a very good driver of the golf ball. He's got tons of distance when he's in the mood. And he's very good with the wedges out of the rough, which is on those holes you're going to be hitting out the rough. Very good there. And then you got a lot of the par fives, a lot of the par threes that you're going to be hitting 200 plus from the fairway, which is also very good at doing that. So Wyndham Clark on a bent grass putting surface is something that intrigues me a lot. Give me Wyndham Clark. And we got him at 35-1. There are 32s, 33s. That 35 was out on DraftKings last night. Popped it in the Discord. Saw some 40s drifting out there this morning. I was waiting for those books to release the without market so I could go back again and grab him at a similar number, 30-1-ish for a without Scotty market, but didn't quite work out. So now that's 26-ish out there. And Wyndham Clark has finished second to Scotty more times than I can count. Just off the top of my head, it was API and the players right in that same sequence of events. He lost to Scotty and finished second to him both times, So Wyndham Clark is probably going to finish second to Scotty Scheffler this week, but it is what it is. We'll see how he goes on these bent grass greens. And then I'm looking at Christopher Wright at 90-1 at a book floating on the rivers there that you can get the 5 places each way. A top 5 at 22.5-1. He sees the biggest spike in his situation when it comes to strokes gained bent putting versus the other surfaces. And if you think about what we can expect from this golf course, I mentioned some API, I mentioned some players. You can throw in Quail Hollow into the mix. I don't hate that at all. It's kind of a big ballpark. Kind of hit it where you want it. It's not too much disaster off the tee, but keep it in play and get on the greens. Christopher Ryden won the Truist Championship not so long ago, my friends. This guy has got the skill set for a big ballpark. He also putts significantly better on bent grass greens. And I think the strokes gained bent putting is also very intriguing because you get on these green surfaces and then you start putting better early, quickly. And then your confidence levels just spike. All of these golfers are so goddamn well. They're so goddamn good. They play such good golf. And when you're playing around a golf and you make a couple of quick birdie putts on some greens that you're kind of relatively familiar with or whatever, the rest of your game improves as well. So I'm not going to be too concerned about Christopher Wrighton, because if you take a look at Christopher Wrighton from a strokes gained off the tee perspective, Buddy is one of the most elite drivers of the golf ball. He's the only people ahead of Christopher Wright in strokes gained off the tee: Cameron Young, Michael Brennan, Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy. We saw that driving ability, we saw all the big drivers of the golf ball, the total drivers of the golf ball. I don't care how you get it done. He's not necessarily he doesn't rank top 10 in driving distance, but he's one of the better when it comes to fairway finding percentages of the bunch. The very long hitters typically miss a couple more, but he may miss fairways by a little bit, and then that percentage is way down, but they're still in the right spots because he gains a lot of strokes off the tee. It's typically his absolutely best strength. So all we're looking for, because he's a very good bend putter, we've got the off the tee, we've got the on the greens. He's horrible around the greens. I'm not too worried about that this week. You're only chipping basically one of every 4 times you're hitting a chip versus a putt. We just got to find the irons, and that is the reason why he's 90-1. So the mystery why he's 90-1 is because he can't hit an iron. He's also won the Truest, a very big ballpark, long iron, mid iron, intensive venue. Give me Christopher Wright 90-1 with the 5 places each way there. Give me that. I might even go back for a nibble at some top 10, waiting for the books to bring out their other odds for the top 10 markets and things like that. I think he's worth a look at those kind of numbers. So I'm in the mood to mess around with him. And then I'm going to be looking at Colin Morikawa, because I showed you the strokes gained ball striking. If we just take a look at the last 2 months, I understand what Kenny's mentioned about his mojo, about his
could be wrong
on these greens.
You could be 100% wrong. It just, to me, when I watched him, he didn't look like, the Morikawa before this year.
Maybe it was like because he was putting on Bermuda. he was back on Bermuda. He was putting on Bermuda, where he loses almost a stroke more than he does on bent grass greens. So he is the number one benefactor from going from Bermuda to bent when it comes to difference between the two. So Poa and Fescue, not that much of a sample size. So these bent versus others is really skewing Colin's favor. So he's top of the board when it comes to bent versus others. So he pops up there, gaining a third of a stroke on the field. If we take a look at the best bent putters, he's relatively towards the top, right? Colin Morikawa, yeah, he's on the first page. So he's right over here. We got a casual 17 guys. So top 20 in the field when it comes to bent putting. But then you go over to the strokes gained ball striking, by the way, which is a new piece of the tool that I've added to the Model Maniac Patreon package that you can get. If you just go Colin Morikawa, strokes gained the last 2 months, ball striking wise, he's the third in the field. But Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns ahead of him. If you go 8 months, he's going to be 5th in the field. So long term, Colin Morikawa, fantastic. Maybe we've hit kind of this Bermuda season over here. This last little while, we've had a couple Bermuda events, blah, blah, blah. Also, a lot of rust since the Open Championship. If you take a peek at some recent finishes, a lot of these guys have got some massive gaps between the Open Championship and starts at the St. Jude. So there's at least a month worth of golf that has not happened for these guys since they got to the St. Jude. But by the way, shout out to Hideki Matsuyama playing his 7th straight tournament this week. Shout out Sungjae Im. I think he's playing his 10th straight event in a row. Kind of banana land stuff. It almost doesn't seem worth it, but he's getting better and better, the more he's playing. So fantastic stuff over there. So
that's stuff we've seen from Sungjae throughout the years. I don't really worry about that too much.
Oh yeah, no, it's just a shout out. It's like, good God, he's done it again. And
I didn't realize Hideki's played 7 in a row.
Hideki's playing 7 in a row. But he's also been balling out, brother. The thing is, it's not been like those starts have been bad. It's like, look at these finishes. It's easy to play 7 tournaments in a row when your worst finish was the Open and you finished 14th. Everything else has been 7th or better for Hideki. So shouting him out for you there, Kenny, right? Because you're back on him again this week. Yeah, it's been a long while since you mentioned your stuff. So with that little break in between, but there wasn't even in between. Let's dive into this week's Blood, Sweat, and DFS tiers for this week's BMW Championship. We've got a bunch of guys in the 7K range, friends. It's going to be a little situation here. We've got 50 guys. We've got 4 in the 10K range. I say 7K. 10K range. Sam Burns, Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, and Scotty Scheffler are your $10,000 options this week. Kenny, what are you doing in this week's DFS slate?
I'll have 2 Scotty lineups. He's the one guy that I'm going to be playing in the 10K range. I don't really have to speak on why. Again, a no-cut event. I mean, there's plenty of studs down there. Like I said, I like guys at 6,000, 6,100. I want to tail you with Rattan at 6,500. We're just going over the 6K range right now. But that's what you got to talk about it if you're going to roster Scotty. Now, I was making some Scotty lineups. You can go Scotty, a 9K guy, one low 7K guy, and 3 6K guys. You can go Scotty, one 8K guy, 2 lower 7K guys, and 2 6K guys. Those are probably going to be the builds for Scotty this week.
We went over that on last night's preview show with me and Sweet Spot DFS, where we dive into the structures of these Scotty Scheffler builds in the BMW Championships. I think he did quite well in last year's BMW Championship, if I recall correctly. So I think Scotty Scheffler needs to be paired with at least 4 7Ks and 6Ks. Like it's either 2 and 2 or 1 and 3, depending what you do with your second click. So that's typically the general structure you're looking for beneficial stuff over there. So Scotty Scheffler at 14.4 is exceptionally expensive, but
again, and I think it's especially prudent this week because that 7K range, just not a big fan. Like especially like the mid to upper 7K range, I'm just not a big fan this week.
Yeah, I've got nobody in the 7K range ranked inside the top 15. Sometimes there's one, it's only 50 guys in the field. That's a third of the field. No one there. But in the 6, if you're looking at the screen now, you see someone ranked 9th there in the 6s. But we're talking about the 10s. And as a result, you said you're playing 2 Scotty Scheffler lineups. How many other lineups are you playing this week, Kenny?
I'm playing my cash, 2 Scotty lineups, and then I'm going to play 2 other lineups. And they're probably going to start with Xander Schauffele at 9,900.
Okay, so we are going straight to the 9,900 range for Kenny there. I think Sam Burns at 10.4 going to be quite popular. I love this golf course fit for him. He's second in the model for me this week, checking 4 of the 6 boxes, looking good. I mean, this guy's just been rattling off. I mean, 3 of his last 4 starts have been thirds. Have they been pathetically underperforming non-wins?
Sundays? Yeah.
Yes, they have, but they've still been third place finishes. Like I was just sitting on the couch waiting for Sam Burns to fuck his round up and then get back right into it again. And he did. Like that's the thing with Sam Burns is he's just not comfortable under the gun for some reason. But at $10,400, he's going to be part of the optimal most likely, unless Scotty Scheffler wins. But even then, you're not even guaranteed because you've got a bunch of 6 and 7K guys to kind of figure out down below. So we'll see there. But before we get out of the $10,000 range, I do want to mention Rory McIlroy. I know he's playing quite poorly, Kenny. He's $11,400. He just 66th at the St. Jude. He's someone that I haven't figured out in my life, but I think this kind of a golf course where there's significantly less strategy versus Southwind, you just kind of hammering driver unless you're hitting an iron off the tee kind of thing. You know exactly what you need to do. There's no 3-wood in between. He can carry all of these bunkers. He can carry what's causing issues for the majority of the players in the field. He's had a really bad performance last week. I've never got him right, but
it sounds like it's the game theory play because he will be the lowest owned in the 10K range because Tommy's playing well too. Also, Sam is playing well. I do expect Rory to be the lowest owned in the, I would say, probably 9K range and up. I think everyone in the 9K range is going to be higher owned than Rory as well. So, we've spoken about this before when it comes to DFS, especially in events like this where it's like the top guys in the world playing. I don't think I can do it this week, but the game theory play is Rory.
Yeah. I mean, he has to be so embarrassed. Look, he obviously gave 0 fucks when he went out there and shot 25 shots worse than Scotty, but he hates that venue. BMW Championships are different for him. He's starting to ramp up. It's been forever. A lot of these guys played their first tournament in a month since the Open Championship last week. So, that could easily have just been a de-ruster, WD-40 type round. And shout out Bobby Mack, we went with the WD, no 40, just WD last week. So it was crazy. Rory McIlroy shot a couple 40s potentially out there. So between the W40s there's a couple of them. And Rory, one of them there. I do think he's going to be very embarrassed. But this week, the course suits his game so much better than TPC Southwind. I think you can just pipe driver whenever you get the opportunity.
I mean, it's possible he's single digits owned.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying is like, I don't think Rory McIlroy requires a build-up in skill set to kind of show you that he's got what he's got, but he just withdrew from the Arnold Palmer, did not play or made the cut barely at the Players, and then didn't do anything until the Masters, and then won the Masters. Like if he's feeling it, he's feeling it. I'm pretty certain maybe he's feeling pretty pissed off about that. Was some of the worst golf he's ever played in his life, to be honest with you, in professional setting. Like 25 back of the leader is disgusting. That's a lot of shots. It's a lot of golf shots. So I think he's going to be looking to kind of perform a little better this week. So I think it all depends on the ownership. If people are thinking the same way as I am, we're going to have to kind of assess, but I don't think they will be. He's still ranked 6th for me this week. Last week, he was ranked way outside the top 10. So, it's kind of looking a bit better from a course fit perspective over there. Moving into the $9,000 range, we got Xander, Ludwig, Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, Siwoo Kim, and Hideki Matsuyama mama out at $9,000 flat. Kenny Kim, where are we doing in the nines?
Yeah, I'm going to play Xander, like I said. I have just a feeling about him. He's played well the last couple of times. He's been out. The ball striking looks like it's back. So I'm in on him. But my cash game cornerstones, I got 3 of them in the 9K range. And what I do in these type of no cut, elite field events is I like to get as many studs. Like if you looked at my lineup last week, I had 5 golfers over $7,900 in my lineup, and I had 1 punt, Jordan Smith, who was like 6,300 or something like that. He did not do well, but it didn't matter because my studs studded, right? Mm-hmm. And it's no cut, and Jordan still got his points. He got weekend points. It wasn't a huge gap between him and everyone else. So I was in the top 10% in cash in that lineup with that lineup I had. And I'm going with the same type of idea for this week. So first cash game cornerstone is going to be Matthew Fitzpatrick at $9,300. Again, another guy who took an extended break, got the rust off, and he still finished 12th last week.
With a double on 18.
With a double on 18. His iron game has been exceptionally strong. Recently, he's at 6th in approach the last 24 rounds in this field. He's been very accurate off the tee also. And my computer might just be dying. No, we're good. And so I'm a fan of him. He good draft percentage, solid par 4 scoring. It's been really, really good. I'll take Fitzy as my first cash game cornerstone. Next, it's going to be Siwoo, right underneath him at $9,100. We spoke about it. He's playing excellent golf. Ball striking has been solid. Iron play has been very, very good, very accurate off the tee. Next, it's going to be Hideki Matsuyama at $9,000. Again, found something with his driver. Top 10 in the field in both strokes gain off the tee and strokes gain approach in the last 24 rounds. First in birdie or better percentage, the last 24 rounds, all in this field. So those are going to be I'm going to go, the low 3Ks, try and stack as many studs as I possibly can. This week's a little bit different because, again, I don't like the 7K range. So I had to, I have another 8K guy in my cash lineup to go along with a 7K guy and a $6,900 guy.
There's what we noticed in the King of the Draft last week, Kenny, was very balanced builds. The only person that picked Scotty Scheffler was Noto, aka Derek Farnsworth. So he had to play 3 9K guys, which included Sung J M and 2 other. Bud Colley, I think, was involved, and Aaron Rai, maybe. So like the moment you start clicking, Scotty, you're going to chalk 6K options, essentially. So shout out Mike, who just quad boxed us for the first time ever, I think. I don't think I've ever seen the quad box, but here we are. So love the quad box there, Michael. Make sure that you guys are watching this in HD, by the way. It's how you should view the show. Not to see me and Kenny's wonderful faces, but to see the graphics and the data and the numbers in high definition, because if you're watching it in like 360p, it's going to be a little blurry. I've watched my fair share of bad shows stoned and realized I was far too late into the show to change the graphics settings there. So Hideki Matsuyama, $5,400 behind Scotty Scheffler, but he's the 10th ranked option in the field. Like this is the BMW Championship. You've got a 50-man field. It's a goofy situation. If you're just looking at my screen here, it's Matt Fitzpatrick. It's Siwoo Kim for me. I love Siwoo Kim off of Bermuda. It's easily his worst surface when it comes to putting. He's bad at putting in general, but he's much better when it comes to bent grass greens versus Bermuda greens. He loses just a bit versus a lot on bent. So
one thing I noticed about Siwoo watching him on Sunday, a lot of 5-6 footers he made for par, a ton, like a bunch. And every stroke counted for me because I had him without Scotty live. And so I was paying massive attention to everything he was doing, and he was leaving himself 4 footers, 5 footers, 6 footers for par. I think 3 or 4 holes in a row on the back.
Yeah.
And he made them.
Yeah, that's different to because he only made 2 birdies the whole day and shot 2 under par, which was like 2 off the second best score of the day. Scotty shot -4. Someone shot -6 earlier, I think. Rose. Yeah. So -4 was the next best.
Straka shot 4.
Steph shot the same round as Scotty Scheffler. We didn't see a thing. It was just like days before, essentially, in the same round. It is what it is. Shout out Steph. But Siwoo, no bogeys in that final round. 2 birdies, 68. Very good round, for a second place finish to Scotty Scheffler again. So ideally we can get Siwoo without Scotty Scheffler in his group and we're good to go. But $9,100, not a terrible option at all. I don't mind him whatsoever in my DFS. Clicking over here, Matthew Fitzpatrick ranks 8th for me. It's the first name and the only name outside of Siwoo Kim who's inside the top 10 for me. I got a lot of guys down the board to find some value on this week, so I'm happy to kind of go balanced, happy to kind of squeeze Scotty in a couple. I'm going to go heavy on Rory because if the ownership is low, we're going to go there. So you can kind of slick anyone else you want into those Rory lineups with whatever ownership. Siwoo Kim will be one of those guys at $9,100 as well. As we scoot down into the $8,000 range, we've got ourselves Chris Gotterup, Victor Hovland, Wyndham Clark, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantley, Henley, Justin Thomas, Jake Knapp, Tom Kim, and Maverick McNeely, rounding out the 8K range here, Kenny, for this week's BMW Championship. I've got 4 of these guys inside the top 11. The rest are pretty far outside the range here for me. So where are you going in this 8K range?
I'm going all form here in the 8K range. I'm going Hovland, I'm going Wyndham Clark, and I'm going Tom Kim. Those are the 3 that I will play this week. Wyndham Clark is in my cash lineup for the week. He is there. So I got 4 guys between 8,700 and 9,300 in my cash lineup. I'm building the studs for the week is what I am doing. So, yes, those are the guys. I like Hovland. He's frustrating to watch, but you could tell that he's close, right? You could tell that if he just eliminated a couple of mental errors, per round, if he just did brain fart a couple of times, that he can get it done. Because the ball striking and the approach play has been there for Hovland. So I'm playing Hovland. And Tom, I think had more. I think at one point in time in the back 9, maybe not by the end, but Tom was first in the field in birdies. He had like 19 birdies in the first 3 rounds. I think he was beating the next best person by like 4 or 5 birdies going into Sunday. He had a bunch of bogeys and doubles, but the man has been playing well. He's been hot. He's going to hit the fairways. I'm going to go with Tom. I'll play Tom this week. Yeah.
I had Tom Kim popping off really hard for round 2 showdown. Guess what? Tom Kim popped off very hard for round 3 showdown. It's just he went nuts in round 3 and showed you exactly what his upside is, Kenny. So don't hate that at all at a golf course that he might be undersold this week if people are popping 10% distance into their models because he's, almost a full 1 behind guys like Chris Gotterup. It's like 2.5 power rating.
Gotterup interested me, but I worry about him on courses with a lot of dog legs. Like if the drive is just straight down, if it's like Firestone or if it's like, something like that where, he's just hitting it dead straight. He can hit that low stinger, hit the fairways. I love him. Like waste management and stuff like that. Once you start getting dog legs and turns and stuff, I'm just not. I think the weapon sort of diminishes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through the John Deere Classic, which he also just won on bent grass greens. I'd also want to just point out that Chris Gotterup is he just wins tournaments randomly sometimes as well. And this is not a signature event. This is a playoff event. It's a different qualification. T14, I think, was his best signature event last year. Whether you classify this as a signature or a playoff or a major, he finished at multiple, fantastic rounds, finished fourth at the Open a year ago, he's got it in some big tournaments, but the signature events in particular, he just didn't have. All of his tournaments he won, Sony, Waste Management, John Deere Classic. Those are Jabroni Central over there for Chris Gotterup. So we'll see what he can do. He is just someone that, if you take a look, all you need to know about Chris Gotterup is his win percentage is 13%. If you want to find a 13% that's embarrassing for anyone around his range, you can go and find Tom Kim, who's got a top 10% of 17. His top 5 rate is the same as Chris Gotterup's win percentage, but the same thing is with Chris Gotterup, his top 5 rate is the same as his win percentage as well. So he's like a popper, in that obviously he's won 3 times this year. So the guy does his thing, but you never know when it's going to happen. I didn't think it would happen at the John Deere Classic. It did. So there you have it with Chris Gotterup. He is someone that I'm in the mood for, but the model's probably popping the hardest for Wyndham Clark. Obviously, one of the guys I have bet. Colin Morikawa, the other guy I'm considering betting this week. We'll be playing him in DFS as well, especially if the ownership is looking like it's going to be in the single-digit range. It is a 50-man event, people. Remember that. You're going to have to find some sort of leverage somewhere in order to win these big events. Colin Morikawa is popping forth for me in this department. Patrick Cantlay's just doing this thing, Kenny. He just lives in the gray area, 50 shades of gray. Patrick Cantlay, barely finishing inside the top 5 ever, but always finishing somewhere between like 14th and 12th. That's basically his happy factory. So give me Patrick Cantlay at this price in BMW Championship environment on bent grass greens, but he's done his stuff there, ranking out 10th for me in the model. And then Russell Henley at $8,400 will be another guy that goes perpetually underlooked. Myself bet him the top 20 last week, finished 34th or 30th, barely missed out on that top 20, but he keeps drifting down those boards to $8,400. He is once again a top 5 golfer in the official Golf World rankings. At some point, he's going to show up and just win a tournament. Get him on these greens that he's got a putt. He's been chipping pretty poorly lately, actually. So the more greens he can hit, the more fairways he can hit, the better. Get the putter in his hand instead of a lob wedge. And I'm in on Russell Henley over here. I think Jake Knapp's going to be quite popular for very good reasons. Same thing with Kurt Kitayama, who begins the $7,900 range for us over here. So, Kenny Kim, who are you doing and what you're doing and how you're doing them in the 7K range this week?
Yeah, I know Kitty is going to be popular, and I'm not going to play him. The worry I have about Kitayama is how bad he is with his irons from the rough, especially from 150 to 200. If he misses these fairways, he's fucked.
Yeah.
Right. If Kitayama hits the fairways, he has a chance to win. If he's above average in hitting fairways. If he is not for the week, he's 50th from the rough from 150 to 175 in a 50-man field. I worry about that with him, and I know he's going to be popular. I don't really like anybody in this upper range. I'll play Adam Scott at $7,100 with a good performance last week, a 3rd place finish here in 2018, whatever. That doesn't mean that much. But at 7,100, the flash I saw last week would be enough. Same with Sungjae at 7,000. Sungjae is in my cash lineup right now. He's just been playing too well. Like he's just so consistent. The floor seems so high for a guy at $7,000. So he's in my cash lineup. And then I'll go over my last cornerstone here in a second. Who do you like in the 7K range?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you take a look at his last 12 months versus 8 versus 4 versus 2. He's lapping in the last 2 months versus what he did the last 12, but the last 12 was very, very bad. There's no one really in this field who's losing strokes. This is how you get to the BMW Championship is if you're gaining. So I think he's one of the worst in this field when it comes to, it's going to be Nico Echeverria and Sepp Straka, who have gained less strokes over the last year than Sungjae Im. So he's obviously just found something over the last little while. I think at this price, like you mentioned, Kenny, a lot to like from Sungjae. The difference being, you mentioned last week, Bermuda surfaces for him. He loves those. This is bent. We'll see how it goes. If the ownership gets out of control, I'm okay skipping him. But he did have his best approach week of the year, I think, last week as well. So there we have it again. So, like pick and choose your battles. Again, ownership will dictate a lot of that. Good Lord. If you want to go back to Bobby Mack, I wonder what his ownership's going to be. Long term, he grades out 16th in the model at $7,700. If he's 5% owned, slide him into a lineup. You never know what he can get up to. He could have a weird bounce back after just getting pissed off and quitting. JJ Spahn always grading out well for me. You never know when he's going to show up doing his thing as the US Open champion of yesteryear. So
I will say Thorpe is my highest ranked golfer in here. He's 11th in my model in the last 24 rounds. But of course, he had that win. I don't think I can get on board with that. I just don't see it from him, especially after what I saw last week from him.
Yeah, I like the other guys I've mentioned a little bit more than Thorpe, but he doesn't, he's Thorpe. We don't know what he really is yet either. Could be anything. Michael Brennan intrigues me. If you're looking at like a guy that can rip driver and just really get scorching hot and hit it a million miles, carry all these bunkers, because these bunkers do narrow the fairways, and then once you carry them, they get significantly wider. I've done the Google Earthing, and it makes a lot of sense. He's got elite distance, obviously, top 10 in the field, and gains a million strokes off the tee. Guess what his biggest issue is? Around the green play. If he's pounding fairways, hitting wedges into every single green, he's going to be putting, baby. And he gains putts, gains strokes putting. So biggest weakness avoided if you can keep that green regulation rate a little higher for the winner of the Wyndham Championship. So we'll see what he can do over there. As by the way, Adam Scott, Kenny, like you mentioned, has a fantastic little profile over here. We got the third place at the PGA Championship in 2018, a 12th at the St. Jude last week, and a 9th at the Open. So between some ancient course history like Adam Scott is, and some recent form, it's like basically me and Tambo going straight up against each other. Yeah, we've got some fantastic pedigree, and we've got a bit of an up-and-coming surge going on at $7,100 for Adam Scott. So kind of love that call, despite the model not necessarily getting on board with us over there. Who the model does get on board with is a $6,900 Alex Noren, who's been finishing 3rd, 7th, and 18th in the last 3 starts, the 18th being the Open Championship. Happy with that top 20 as a probably better result than the 3rd at the St. Jude, to be honest with you, type situation. So give me those 3 great results in a row. He's also not necessarily the greatest on bent versus Bermuda, but he's still very, very good. If you filter by Bermuda, he's numero tres. I almost said uno. Thank God I knew at least 3 numbers in Spanish there. And he's actually second when it comes to strokes gained bent putting. So slight improvement after last week. It was second to Sam Burns before I updated the numbers. So you're getting a lot of good stuff. It's the POA and the fescue that is really screwing Alex Noren in that department. He's also probably going to get overlooked because he's not the longest driver of the golf ball in the field. He's not, he's Alex Noren. He's a Ryder Cup captain who is finishing inside the top 20 in 3 straight PGA Tour events in the biggest fields on golf. So $6,900, 9th in the model. Give me some Alex Noren. And while I'm speaking about Alex's, give me Alex Smalley as well. 18th in the model, 7th at the Wyndham, 24th at the St. Jude. Guys balling out. Played fantastic at Aronimink, which I think was bent grass greens at the PGA Championship, Kenny. So Buddy made all the putts at that PGA Championship. So Alex Smalley, $6,700. And then while I'm still just rattling off boys, Justin Rose, my guy, when it comes from Bermuda to bent, he just loves the bent gents. He's a bent gent. And 17th in the model at $6,800, popping pretty hard. Had a top 20 year in 2018 when he was, 32, kind of thing. And doing his thing, Justin Rose. I love him at this golf course and doing some good course history, reminiscing over here in the sixes, excuse me. Kenny, where are we going for you in the $6,000 range?
My final cash game cornerstone is Noren. He's just playing too well. I'm going to play Norin. So Cascade Cornerstones, you can see it's fifth seed at 9,300, Siwoo at 9,100, Decky at 9,000, Norin at 69. I am finishing the lineup with Wyndham Clark and Sung Jae In. So I got 4 studs, and I got 2 guys with multiple top 20 finishes in the last month. So that's what I'm going with. A lot of my stuff is form for this week, just because you don't really know what you're getting with the new course. And at this point in time, when guys are playing well, especially elite guys, and if you're in the top 50, you're up there in some of the best golfers in the world. When these guys get hot, they can tend to keep it going for extended periods of time. And so that's how I'm basing my cash lineup. 4 guys who I think can win: Fitzy, Siwoo, Decky, Wyndham Clark. I think they all can win. I think they can all top 5. I think their floor is high as well for each of them. And I think Norin and Im, their floor is high, and they have top 20 upside in this event. That's what I'm going with my cash lineup, my final cash lineup of this 2026 regular season.
It's one of those cash lineups that just almost seem too good to be true, Kenny.
That's the problem. That's the problem. Like, I think I've texted you about this before in the past, where I'm like, I don't understand how this cash lineup can lose and it finishes like in the bottom 10%. So it's definitely happened before, but I do like this cash lineup. Other guys I do like in the 6K range, and there's a lot. Like, there's plenty of guys. Bridgman is interesting. I think Bridgman has a high floor. If he can just get a spike week once, maybe he could top 10 out there, because the guy's just rattling off top 25s and top 30s for the last 2 months, right? He just needs that one spike event, and he's playing well enough to get it done. So Bridgman is someone that I will be looking at. Rose, like you talked about, Smalley, I like that. Woodland's a guy who played here before, did well, I think top 5, top 10 or something in this field. I'll be looking at him, and I'll be Rattan, Wrighton. How do you pronounce his name again?
I'd say Wrighton. It's
right.
Right off or right on. I don't know.
You intrigued me about him with your conversation in the betting segment, so I'll take a peek at him. And then you got the guys down below. Nico, what does he have? Like 2 or 3 top 15s, top 20s,
buddy,
in a row, and he's $6,100.
Yeah, we got back-to-back 12th place finishes. Wyndham, St. Jude.
Yeah, and then you got Sepp Straka, who gained 4 strokes on Sunday, shot -4, second best round of the day at 6,000. I mean, if he's back, this is a hell of a price.
He's a $9,000 golfer. Like, what's Sepp Straka does?
Winner, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if he's back, you might as well jump on him now. I mean, we'll see. I mean, that was an unbelievable final round he had.
It is worth noting that he is the only golfer in my model that's got a negative power rating, though. So it's like he's come
playing well.
I was born in the darkness. I was not raised. I was born, and I think Sepp is going to be
6,000.
Yeah, I'm $6,000, and I'm gonna Bane. That's what I'm trying to get out there with that horrible accent there. But I'm all in. Nico Echeverria, interesting because he's a Bermuda merchant. Like the fun part about what they've done with the Wyndham versus St. Jude, then we jump to Bent, is that you get these different courses. Like, I totally think that when it comes to playoffs, we should have a fucking variety, fly all over the goddamn country, like go to Poa, go to Bent, go to Bermuda, and then even go to Europe. I don't care, get all the putting surfaces on there. I want to share my model. I want to know what people get up to on all the, let's see who the best golfer is on all the various. Get a $7,600, 7,600 yards, 70 past 72, and then give us a 6,900 yard past 70, let's see what these guys can really get up to. So shouting out Ryan Fox in this situation. When it comes to hitting out of the rough, Buddy's built like a brick shit house. I mean, he's just the Open champion now. Got the rust knocked off last week. Also went out with Sahith Thagala, who's right next to him. He had $6,100, and they played their round as a twosome in like 3 hours. And then Justin Rose and whoever was behind them finished like 40 minutes later. It was an incredible, like just cruising. They were like 3.5 holes ahead of everyone. So he's someone I'm in the mood for. Is old Foxy. I'll continually go back to Eric Cole in sprinkles. You just never know when he's going to show up. It's been a little rough lately, but if you take a look at his like last 4 months, it's better. There was like life during that period of time over there. Gary Woodland obviously checks the one box for, I think, driving distance. So we'll see what he does in that department. Easy scoring is one. He's the worst in the field in that department.
Big news, live news. I don't know if this is true, but it looks like it is. Live Golf in Indianapolis will be Jon Rahm's last event with the league, as he is set to return to the PGA Tour in a deal reportedly struck in recent weeks. This is from at T Times Pub, who is a Live Golf guy. So he said they're paying a $25 million. He is paying a $25 million fine to be donated to charity. We'll have to do a Koepka-esque apology tour that will not be eligible for signature events. Again, I don't know if this is true. It was reposted by Monday Q,
which I trust a lot.
I trust Monday Q. It was retweeted by Monday Q. That's how it's on my timeline. So it looks like he's trying to get a similar deal for Tyrrell Hatton as well.
Of course. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. It's been rumored that he was leaving. None of this is shocking. It is breaking, though. And this will likely be the first podcast that speaks about Jon Rahm in this light. And I'm glad. I'm glad he didn't have to go waste away on the DP World Tour for a year. Get this motherfucker back on the tour. Get him angry. And he was the one guy that could really, truly rival Scotty and not give a fuck. Like he went up against Scotty hard and did well. Rory.
Well, we've never seen a Rory Scotty battle.
No.
We've never seen
get the
one.
guy that we know can do this with us. Get him back on the tour because we need a Batman versus whoever, like either live to be the hero or die the villain type thing. And Rahm he's returning as the villain, in my opinion, in the grand scheme of things. It'll be very interesting to see how he gets received on the tour. I think he'll be fine. It won't be like he's a very intimidating guy. If someone talks shit to him from the crowd, you'll you'll take care of it, But at the same time, he's fighting some demons, and I'm looking forward to this. Is fantastic news. I love to hear this. Like for the game of golf, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about these guys leaving. They did what they wanted to do. They wanted to make some money. Good for them. I have no fucking problem with that.
We would have done the same stuff.
He's coming back with a hefty punishment. 25 million, if that's the number. Pretty
10% of what he made, probably.
Right? I mean, pretty fucking hefty. And we don't even know if he got all the money from Liv, So it could be more than 10%.
Nah. Yeah, it was rumored he was making 600 million. I think 250 million is probably a safe bet for what he's actually truly made. So 10% of that. Yeah. The purse for the BMW Championship is 20 million. So he's basically paying these boys and some, So shout out Jon Rahm sponsoring the BMW Championship this week with his return to Live Golf.
Bring him, bring Hatton back, bring Bryson back. Just bring everybody.
Bring Cam Smith, Riemann,
bring
them all.
The best guys back. Bring them all back.
The most exciting dudes. I'm in.
Bring them all back.
We hated them while they're there.
There's the best part about it is there's going to be some type of feelings by existing PGA Tour players for these guys taking the bag and being able to come back. And that's going to add a nice dynamic, I think, to watching, when these guys play against each other, what they say about each other. I think it'll add a nice, fun dynamic for when these guys come back.
Maybe Walker Neiman is who Scotty Scheffler truly needs as his alter rival. I think Scotty would fist pump the fuck out of any Live guy he had to beat, on that final green to go versus like Sam Burns or Siwoo or somebody like that. So lots to be discovered in the next little while. I am still sitting around making double my money in the Pat Mayo one and done. went with Victor Hovland last week. At some point on Saturday, I logged online and saw Victor was tied for the lead. He ultimately finished T19.
Yeah.
So there's the Victor Hovland experience for you. This is the reason why we didn't take him at 20% ownership last week. This week, I don't even know. I should know exactly who I have left over. I don't. It'll likely be one of the better guys at the top there. I'm kind of in the position where I'm just trying to make my money back and double it. So want to shout out my boy Chad Candles. In the Discord, we chat often, about his one and dones. He's in the Pat Mayo and he's sitting within the top 20. And he had Tommy Fleetwood as his one and done pick last week. And that putt on the last hole hurt him bad. That was a disastrously disgusting putt for old Chad Candles and Tommy Fleetwood, who, by the way, if you know who Chad Candles is as a social media presence, he's exactly the same as Tommy Fleetwood, just the nicest guy in the world. The dominating librarian is what I would imagine he gets called every now and then. But go check out Chad Candles. He was part of the Pete Over Z, so you think you can tout scheme over there that was helped with Pat on their channel there too.
I think I've seen a porn with the dominating librarian before.
I wouldn't be shocked if it's Chad Candles himself. He's just that guy.
I was talking about a woman.
He lit the candle, eh? That's crazy.
Talking about a girl.
The Wicker Man. Anyway, as the recording hits 2 hours on the nose, we had a bit of intermissions over here. As you can tell, later evening show, a little more in inebriation. Thoroughly enjoyed the show with you, Kenny. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys all watching. Congrats to Brian England on hitting the winner for who is going to win the week of the show. Hit us in the comments below. Let us know who's going to win this week. There's 50 guys. If we get 50 comments, if you're the 51st comment, don't even comment. Comment about something else. Tell us whatever else you want to tell us. There's likely something in the show that you disagree with, so let us know. But you got 50 guys to guess out there. One of them have to win the tournament, and you get a free month in the Model Maniac Patreon as a result. So congrats to be out there. Check me at the Model Maniac on X. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, 3 Eastern on Mayo Media, as I do my show on all my bets and placements once the markets present themselves overnight, and then we'll get into all of that stuff. Go check out my Back Nine Bets YouTube channel, which has me and Darbo, Sweet Spot DFS, doing our thing last night for 2 hours, previewing and reviewing the previous week and the upcoming week. So lots of stuff for me that I presented you guys with there. I've been pumping out all sorts of screenshots on social media as well. Hit the like, hit the subscribe to the show, tell your aunties and uncles about it. Next week, you're probably not listening, but the true ones will be. So to those of you that do, we appreciate you so much. Hit the like. Kenny Kim, get us the hell out of here, as DraftKings sponsors the show with FGD code.
If you are the 51st commenter, I want you to comment how many different how many different hats Byron has worn throughout the entire show.
I will add another month of the Model Maniac Patreon to that. If you can count how many different hats, not the same one. There's been multiples, but I don't even know myself. We'll have to count them. But yes.
Now everybody's like, oh my God, what is going on? They're going to scroll back and see you in a new hat like every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's insane.
If you're listening to this show, you are doing yourself a disservice. It needs to be a viewed show. Like just cut out 2 hours for your life and enjoy yourself. Kenny.
You can find me on X at Kendo VT. I'll have my final betting card, any adjustments to the cash game cornerstones, any live bets. Hopefully you followed last week with the live Siwoo without Scotty ad that I had. Should be a fun week. It's the playoffs. We got 2 more weeks left. Let's win some motherfucking money. DGen Nation.